Senate urges Buhari to appoint separate power minister. Nigerian Senate has called for a separate minister for the Ministry of Power. The Senate said this will ensure optimal performance of the ministry. Babatunde Fashola is the minister currently overseeing the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing. The Senate has urged the federal government to appoint a separate minister for the Ministry of Power to ensure optimal performance. Under the present administration, the Ministry of Power is fussed with those of Works and Housing, with one minister overseeing them. The Senate also urged the government to immediately incorporate special purpose vehicles, SPVs, for the implementation of alternative energy projects, which included the hydropower projects, solar power projects and the wind power projects. It equally urged the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing to use gas as source of energy for the Kaduna project in accordance with its original concept. This followed a resolution on a motion on the need to establish and delegate special purpose vehicles to execute and operate major power sector development projects. The motion was sponsored by Sen. Buhari recalled that the federal government in 2004 conceived the idea of an integrated power project which metamorphosed into Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited, and DPHC, Incorporated in 2005. This was in government's quest to bridge the power gap for sustained economic growth in Nigeria by adding significant new generation capacity to Nigeria's electricity supply system. He said that the National Assembly enacted the Electric Power Sector Reform (EPSR) Act 2005 on March 11, 2005, which kick-started the process of privatization of the Nigerian electricity supply industry, NESI. The legislator said that the act was in a bid to develop a competitive electricity market with the establishment of the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC. The function of NERC is to provide for the licensing and regulation of the entire value chain of the Nigerian electricity market, NIM. The privatization exercise became effective on November 1, 2013 when the Unbundled Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN, was sold and transferred to successful bidders of the 6th-generation companies, GENCOs, and the 11 distribution companies, DISCOs. The ownership and control of the Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN, was retained by the federal government for strategic reasons, he said. Buhari also said that consequent upon the commencement of the privatization and establishment of the Nigerian electricity market, the role of the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing was restricted. Contributing Chairman, Committee on Power, Senator Ryan Ibrahim, said the committee was already acting along its own mandate for oversight. We are working toward ensuring that these concerns that have been raised by this motion were looked into. The Ministry of Power today is combined with Works and Housing, and the thrust of the ministry is to give quality direction. But what we find is that the ministry continues to appropriate these jobs that are specifically meant to be done by agencies under it. We are taking measures to see whether we can bring back the ministry to what it ought to be, Ibrahim said. In his remarks, Deputy President of the Senate, Mr. Ike Kremadu, who presided at plenary, said that every talk about growing the economy would not work unless the power sector was repositioned. We need to create a situation where we have energy sufficiency, so long as the private sector depends on private arrangement for energy requirements, the cost of goods will continue to be high, especially the ones produced here. It is important that we all work toward ensuring power sufficiency in the country and ensure that it is sustained, Ekremadu said. Com had earlier reported that the Nigerian Senate asked the Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola, SAN, to resign his appointment if he was burdened by the volume of work at his ministry. Chairman Senate Committee on Appropriations, Senator Danjuma Goje, made the call on Wednesday, July 5, in reaction to statement credited to Fashola where he faulted the lawmakers for unilaterally altering allocations of the Ministry of Works in the 2017 budget.